After a long period of peace, the world must face darkness again. An evil force wants to rule the planet, and monsters are scattered all over the continents. However, an old legend tells the story of four brave heroes, the Warriors of Light, four fighters that will rise from the darkness and restore peace. Each warrior has a strange, distinctive and shiny orb, proving his or her identity. While everyone is waiting for these legendary warriors, four characters show up, and each of them is courageous like these mythical warriors. But, unfortunately, their orbs are not shiny anymore, and the power of dark forces seem always more unstoppable. Ignoring this fact, these four strangers decide to start their journey anyway, in order to give their orbs their ancient shiny power. These are more or less the basics of the Final Fantasy plot. Now, if any of you played the CD of Final Fantasy on PSP, you may have noticed that the character related to Final Fantasy is actually called Warrior of Light, without a specific name. In this first episode, in fact, all the characters had no name at all, and the players had the liberty to choose the names by filling the four-letter long space that was offered. Yeah, four letters are not many, but they are probably the result of the four spaces used for the Japanese kanjis in the original version. The first difference between Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy is clearly visible. The game has four warriors, and the player can see and control all of them, whereas in Dragon Warrior there is only one fighter, and all the battles are from the first-person perspective. So, even before the title screen, that shows up after beating the first boss, we have to create our team of warriors, choosing between 6 different classes: Fighter, Thief, Black Belt, White Mage, Black Mage, and Red Mage. Every class has its own unique potential. The Fighter is slow, but he can handle almost every weapon in the game and wear every armor. The Thief is fast, but can use only smaller weapons. The White and the Black Mages are experts in their own magical techniques. And the Red Mage is a well-balanced guy with black and white magic skills, even if he cannot learn all the spells. And it's also really good with some weapons. The Black Belt is a very particular specimen. This sort of monk has its own weapons at first, but after a while, he prefers to fight with no armor and no weapons at all. Someone says that a well-trained group of 4 Black Belts, even if they are completely useless at the beginning of the game, is capable of killing the final boss in 2 rounds! And that's impressive! 2 rounds! Oh my god! Anyway, the game world is made of open fields, cities, castles, dungeons, and so on. Lots of these areas are full of monsters, and you can fight them thanks to our beloved, quote-unquote, random encounters. After beating them, you earn some money and some experience points. In the cities you can find classic places like inns and clinics, where you can restore your life and save your game. Actually, in the clinics you can resurrect the dead warriors, and for a strangely high price. You can also find weapon shops, armor shops, and magic shops, in which you can buy magic spells for your mages that will never learn any additional technique with experience only. Speaking of magic, here we can find the first interface limitation. Unfortunately, without a manual or a strategy guide, it's not possible to acknowledge the effects of a spell. Also, the spell names are reduced in 4-letter words like fire, harm, cure, lead, etc. And most of them are not exactly self-explanatory. Same thing for the weapons and the armors. They are labeled with some tiny drawing, and it's not exactly always easy to understand if a warrior is able to equip a weapon or not. So overall, you really need a manual or a strategy guide. Okay, back then they were normal stuff. You can buy strategy guides everywhere. You have the manual in the game, blah blah blah. But now it's hard to find a manual or a guide for a good price if you're not a collector. Also, if you buy a weapon or an armor that a character cannot equip, you can only sell them back for half their original price. The good old rule, the customer is always right, is not working in the world of Final Fantasy. Oh, well, that whole weapon thing is kinda frustrating after a while. I can imagine a warrior running into a shop and buying a weapon that he cannot even equip. During the fights, the warriors can choose between a list of actions, like in every single Final Fantasy game. The only difference is that if you kill a monster that everyone chose as a target, but before everyone had the possibility to hit it, you cannot change your target and the attack will be ineffective. So, for this reason, you have to memorize the total amount of life points of most of the monsters in the game in order to choose your target wisely. This sort of tip instantly becomes like the only strategy possible for one simple reason. Final Fantasy, especially in the first 3 or 4 hours, is both slow and difficult. Very slow. A balanced team is the key to victory, but at the start of the game, a monster can easily defeat your mages with 2 or 3 hits, more or less, and will be anyway stronger than your team. The level up system is not that bad, but sometimes you may level up way too slowly. You have to search for the right monsters to kill in order to earn lots of experience and money with almost no effort. But there's one more problem. The items are way too expensive. 60 gil for a potion, 75 for an antidote, 75! That doesn't look that much, but if you have to consider that in an average fight you earn more or less 50 gils. You risk death in every single fight and you can't even buy a stupid potion if you win.